Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And Dr. Lopkin, we've talked about it in the past, but it looks like, from this whole protest situation that it looks like it's really, at least in the on the left side, it looks like defunding the police is a real issue.
They're trying to make it a real issue. And unfortunately, let's be realistic about this. This is not the Black Lives Matter movement. This is a group of left-wing wackos who have hijacked the protests because they have an anti-police agenda.
You don't think it's Antifa or it's other groups that have infiltrated?
And
I do.
It could be Antifa. It's different. It's what I'm saying is it's not the Black Lives Matter movement that's doing this.
That, yes.
It's other groups that have hijacked, these protests, and they've gone to ridiculous extremes, trying to get shows taken off the air because they show a positive image of police, taking over an area in Seattle around an abandoned police station, even setting a Wendy's on fire. This is not the group of people that are trying to fight for civil rights. This is a completely other group who has decided that they are going to infiltrate, they are going to take over, and they are going to ruin the Black Lives Matter movement because they've got an anti-police agenda, and their demands are absolutely ridiculous.
I actually, that's a really good point, Dr. Lopkin, that I think as this goes on, they had the support of most Americans. And I think when you go to such an extreme, they're going to lose that. Do you agree?
I think they're definitely going to lose that. They're going to have some symbolic victories. Like, Trump recently said chokeholds should only be used by police as a last resort if a policeman is their life is in danger. What most Americans don't realize is that the NYPD, other large police forces, outlawed the use of the chokehold 30 years ago.
Yeah, but let's talk about that just for a second. If you're a policeman, aren't you actually now in a no-win situation? Like anything that, who's going to be a policeman? Isn't that a bigger issue?
That is a big issue. You've actually seen a lot of policemen leave the force over the last few weeks because they're putting their lives on the line. They're obviously not appreciated, but now it's even harder to protect themselves. The case in Atlanta, for example, the assailant grabbed the policeman's taser, turned towards him, and aimed it at him as though he was about to shoot. So the policeman opened fire to save his life. People are now yelling, oh, well, a taser's not a lethal weapon. He shouldn't have used his gun. Except several weeks ago, when the cops were using the tasers, then it was a lethal weapon. So you can't have it both ways.
No, I would agree with that. I think in Atlanta, okay, obviously that's not, the same case as several weeks ago, but I do think that maybe it was a little bit too lethal, but we're getting into such a situation now, such an environment that any use of lethal force, any kind of thing, just sparks what it sparks. Do you agree?
Exactly. What happened to George Floyd was unacceptable.
Oh, God,
there is absolutely no way that the cops should not be held responsible. However, when a suspect is resisting arrest and aims a taser at you, that's a different situation. You cannot look at all of these situations exactly the same. By the same token, there was the woman that was killed when the police were enforcing a no-knock warrant. Now, whether you believe in the no-knock warrant or not, the cops went into the house. Her boyfriend opened fire on them. They returned fire, and she was caught in the crossfire. Was it tragic? Yes. But when you're firing at cops, you have to expect the cops to fire back.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about the Atlanta case, this is my humble opinion, is it is not, what happened several weeks ago. I get that. I'm not so sure the use of lethal force was warranted, but it's certainly a gray area. That's my just humble opinion.
Yeah, it's absolutely a gray area. What I'm saying is you cannot take all of these situations and paint every cop with the same brush. And that's what this group is trying to do. If you remember, when the protests started, when it was purely about Black Lives Matters, you had police joining the protests. You had the groups working together. Now you've got this outside group basically just trying to destabilize things. They have an anti-police agenda, and that's not what the Black Lives Matter movement was about. It was about civil rights. It was about protecting the lives of those against those bad apples in the police force.
No, I agree. I think
defunding the police, that's going to make things worse.
Yeah, I do agree 100% that a grassroots kind of up from the bootstraps kind of movement has been hijacked. But as we wrap this up, politically, I think it does have major repercussions in terms of, I think Biden's going to get increasingly more pressure to embrace some degree of, let's just say, defunding the police to some degree.
I don't think he will. The fact of the matter is pretty much every Democrat, every Republican has come out and said, yes, reform is necessary. No, defunding the police is not the right answer. And I don't think any of them are going to back down, especially since Democrats are heavily backed by the police unions.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And to kind of wrap this up, I do think it plays really negatively because I believe that Trump is in a no-win situation. As we wrap it up, what do you think?
Yeah, he's
just like Johnson was involved in the riots of the 60s. There's no way you're associated with it. I think he's in a no-win situation.
Yeah, he's caught between a rock and a hard place. I think what's going to save him is the fact that his base has seen him attacked over and over again over the last 4 years, and they're not going to forget that.
I would agree. Any final thoughts, Dr. Lopkin?
If you're protesting as part of the Black Lives Matter movement, more power to you. This is a cause that's needed. If you are an outsider, just get away. Go away. Nobody needs you. Let's fight for civil rights the correct way.
I would agree. And Friday, we're going to have kind of a free zone kind of Friday, and people can call in, and we might have a nice kind of forum to discuss these issues. Correct, Dr. Lopkin?
Absolutely. And you can catch us live at blogtalkradio.com/Carnivore Radio.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lopkin, and thank you for our listeners. We'll be back on Friday.
See you then.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.